Welcome to What It Takes. I'm Rose Martin. Joining me on the panel today from the Build Smart Institute are Alicia Smith, Interior Designer and Director of Marketing and Development with FNS Building Innovations, Inc., and Rob Leonard, Director of Education. Build Smart's Institute mission is to educate and train individuals to become career ready and advance within the construction industry occupations. With a combination of virtual learning, classroom instruction, and hands-on laboratory skill practice, Build Smart Institute trains, tests, and provides the tools to be successful. It sounds like an awesome program. Today's topic, a focus on the trades. Welcome to What It Takes. Thanks so much for joining me.
Thanks for having us.
So the obvious first question is, what is the Build Smart Institute?
Well, the Build Smart Institute is a construction education resource center. We focus on construction industry trades, and we teach the knowledge and skills for folks to enter into the trade or already expand into what they're already currently doing within the trades. But we're also a fuller resource center with respect to apprenticeship programs, help folks navigate into those programs and instruct to those programs as well. So we'd like to consider ourselves primarily a construction education resource center with the technical aspect, but then also helping folks to get properly placed within the industry.
For what age groups?
Well, we really start with career exploration in 5th and 6th grade, and then we have programs that can cater to middle school, high school, apprenticeship programs, and adult learners. And we really try to focus on getting folks in the high school and adult learners into the trades as quickly as we can.
So Build Smart in a nutshell is filling a hole. I know everyone has seen all of the articles, you hear it on the news about there's just a lack of people that are going into the trades. It's to a point where folks can really start to write their own paycheck if they're willing to take the steps to get into it. So Build Smart Institute's sole goal is to help fill that gap, and we're doing it from a couple different lanes. From the student perspective, either from middle school through high school, with students having an opportunity to realize maybe they don't need to go into an IT or a different kind of career. Maybe something more hands-on is what they tend to lean to. So they'll have that opportunity to experience. But also from the other perspective, folks that are ready to start a career that are an adult, maybe they already have a career, but they say, you know, I need to try something different. So we're trying to hit it from both ends, also providing opportunities for apprenticeships. We're trying to spread it across all the avenues that are needed. Hopefully in the end, we'll be producing folks that are ready to get into the construction industry and build stuff.
That sounds great. And you know, you talked about those holes. Why do you think those holes exist to begin with?
There's a lot of reasons, and it really started decades ago when the trades were stigmatized and folks were pushed into four-year college and college programs and whatnot. And the schools had really started doing that again decades ago. It was a number of years ago, shop classes were actually within the four walls of the school systems, and then slowly over time they started to dissolve out of the school systems, and then the industry was largely stigmatized. A lot of folks were pushed into four-year college or two-year college, which is great if that's where they belong. Unfortunately, a lot of those folks, the younger folks, weren't availed to the various opportunities within the trades, and that they might have had more of the propensity to do that. And then over the course of time, folks were just not getting into it. I took a World of Construction course in the 1970s when I was in high school, and our instructor at that time said, hey, y'all are the doctors of the future. This is the mid-70s, and we looked at him like, what is he talking about? And he said, well, the industries are going to be stigmatized. Construction and vocational industries are going to be stigmatized. They're going to push folks into four-year colleges. Come the turn of the century, there's going to be nobody to do the hands-on work. It's going to be a lost art, essentially. And he was right. And that's when the industry, particularly the construction industry, started to wake up and say, wow, we have a problem. What are we going to do about this? And unfortunately, the construction industry isn't very good about broadly figuring those things out. And so they've started to peck at it since that period of time. And folks like the Build Smart Institute, we recognize that. And fortunately, Gary Fiesel said, hey, we need to get something started here. And we've been going at it for a year and a half. So.
Well, and the the programs and the interest, Alicia, you as an interior designer, I mean, I think we're all budding interior designers now. We think we are at home watching the shows thinking, I think I could redo that, or it can't be so hard to just take out that wall and expand my space. So is that helping bring people who maybe were a mismatch to the 2- and 4-year schools back to say, this is where I love to work with my hands. I want to create something beautiful. And you mentioned the word art. It is art because it's a really tough skill, but you need the craftsmanship to make it beautiful.
Absolutely. Part of Build Smart's goal is to help change the narrative. And we do that by partnering and putting a lot of people in the same room that don't ever sit in the same room. I know we've scheduled and worked with, Rob has especially worked on some events that partner construction industry professionals with CT instructors and educators and construction industry folks so that they can talk about the need and talk about how they can fulfill it. Because it is an art, and we want to make sure that we create a narrative that lets folks know, no matter what age they are, that a job in the trades, it can be a lucrative career. It's not always just swinging a hammer, although swinging a hammer is needed, because if new structures get built, you've got to have the people to lay the block, to swing the hammers, to pour the concrete, to build the walls. So we just want to make sure that we create an environment that folks realize it's a successful career, it's a lucrative career, it can be a very financially rewarding career as well. So that's part of our job, is helping form that narrative so that people know from a young age, it's not just you do construction if you don't have another tendency. It's that you've chosen construction because you're going to be good at it, you're going to be successful at it. You might not even be doing the work at some point. You may own a construction company. We want these folks to dream big.
That's a really great point, to where you can carve out your career and don't think that a career in the trades or construction does not have the same salary capabilities as the other, right? And then there was a survey, right, in 2019 that took a look at within your industry about the numbers, and really came out and said that this is a very, like you used the word lucrative, this is a lucrative career for so many people, or a transitional career for some who've decided, I really want to go there.
Well, the thing about the construction industry, first off, it really talks, with any career pathway, you're really going to work on fulfillment, where an individual is properly placed and where they're going to be feel fulfilled, and then they'll be successful, and not only in the economic metrics, but just in the personal gratification, being happy, and all those things really dovetail together. And so it's oftentimes folks have a certain perception about construction, and some of it's true and some of it's not. And what the interesting thing about construction, I've experienced this firsthand for myself, is that you can stack on your career in whatever directions you decide you want to go to. There's literally thousands and thousands and thousands of various careers within the industry that folks can stack on, and they can it's very entry level. You can get into the construction field, like Alicia was saying, swinging the hammer, working in the field, and you want to do that the rest of your life. If you feel gratified in doing it, great. If you want to start to stack on and perhaps take on supervision roles, project management roles, estimating roles, and then there's all these other ancillary businesses and all these other ancillary contributors to the industry. We cite 3D printing, for example. They're starting to 3D print buildings. And if
Isn't that amazing? I can't even imagine that, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you just Google it, you can see some images that are pretty phenomenal. But if you have a basis in construction, then you can be a more effective programmer of a 3D printing software, for example. There's other contributing industries, manufacturing, that contributes to it. And I was in the manufacturing segment for a little while. And just by virtue of the fact that I had all those decades of construction experience, I was able to contribute to what we were manufacturing to produce to the construction industry. There's a lot of opportunity that you can branch out into and stack onto through the industry. And the prime time to catch individuals is typically in the 5th and 6th grade. When you start to give them some idea, avail them to the various opportunities, then you can show them pathways to get there. And it's not a matter of stigmatizing 2-year college, 4-year college, technical schools, any of the other things, but rather showing them perhaps a hybridized path that they can go to a Build Smart Institute, for example, and then maybe they want to advance into some college curriculum where they get more of a a professional side of the industry, albeit engineering, architecture, interior design, things like that. So there's
What
a lot
specific things are you doing now, or working in cooperation with some of the local school divisions, or even creating your own, camps or enrichment activities? What some things are happening?
So all the above.
Okay,
We
great.
actually were planning to have summer camps this summer. Obviously, the COVID pandemic put a stop to that being able to happen this summer. However, this coming summer, we will absolutely have summer camps. They'll most likely be a week long, aimed at middle and high school students to have the opportunity to play with tools safely. Obviously, safety protocols will be in place. We currently have partnered with several local schools and school systems. There are a couple ways to do that. We've got some blended approaches where they actually come into our facilities. We've got 12,000 square foot, so social distancing and safe practices right now are easy to achieve right now. So they can come into the facility, they get safety training, they're able to use the tools, they're building things, they're wiring, they're plumbing. This past week they laid block and brick, got involved with the masonry end of it. We have student or adult courses that we'll be launching in the near future that are more of a higher education, whether it's the electrical path, the carpentry path, the plumbing path. So like we said, we're running the gamut from full spectrum. Also important to mention is our learning management system. We've got an online virtual portal where folks can, for a fee, log on to that. There are videos, there are quizzes, ways for folks to be able to experience it virtually if they're not comfortable coming into the facility.
It's almost like a hybrid model. They can do both if they want to, but still gain that interest.
Yeah, it's so a couple things real quick to follow up on what Alicia said. If you go on to buildsmartinstitute.com, there's a free portal you can go onto, and you'll get a sampling of some of our courses, our virtual courses. So you can go on there, and folks have commented how much they've learned, for example, about the tape measure. Even some folks experience in the field, but you can get an idea of what our virtual programs are. So you can do exclusively virtual program that we're complementing the Roanoke City Public School System with our virtual program and their CTE instructional program. So we're complementing them. You can do a blended where they can do some of it virtual and then come into our shop and do the hands-on part, or full course at our facility. And then also we have short little workshops, little things that we do. The mentor training program, for example. Apprentices are often put, whether it's in a formal or informal apprenticeship program, and we can help navigate into either, is that the mentors are a critical piece to a successful mentor or a successful apprenticeship program or learning program for young or new learners. And so we instruct the mentors how to properly deliver the instruction, how to handle things professionally in the field, to make that part of the equation, not only the apprentice part of the equation, but the mentor, to make sure it's a fully successful program that any company wants to take on to produce.
Then with this, are they certified when they finish your program?
So the apprenticeship and mentoring program are DOLI, Department of Labor and Industry, approved and certified. So that's exciting for us. And to tag on to what he said, it's extremely important as folks go through Build Smart Institute and get their training. They need somewhere to go as a next step.
Right.
We don't just want to provide training, we want to provide a clear path to a career. So we need local businesses to partner with us and be willing to take on apprentices. And like he said, the goal of an apprenticeship is not just be a gopher to do busy work, but to actually learn while they're on the job. So that was part of the reason of the development of the mentorship training program, is so that companies, sometimes it can be intimidating to say you're starting a full apprenticeship program. So if we provide that training to companies so they feel more comfortable bringing on apprentices and knowing that they're going to be able to mentor them and train them, that's part of the gap that we're trying to fill. We need local companies that are willing to, once they go through Build Smart's program, say, hey, come to work for us, we'll train you, we'll mentor you, and help those students on a path to a successful career.
So I was thinking about the hurdles and the successes, and it sounds like the one may be the mentors or the businesses to partner with. That seems like something that you're pleading to people, help us, right? We're all in this industry. We all know we have these gaps. We all know, and we've got this mechanism in order to fill them. When you think about other hurdles and successes, share with me some of those things that you've either been able to resolve and celebrate some of the successes.
I'd say just frankly, just opening the school to begin with, that's a huge success. This is something that really hasn't been accomplished in the private sector within this area. I did a lot of work in discovery of the need, both locally, regionally, and nationally. So just by virtue of the fact that we were able to open a facility like this, and that we had somebody that understood the need to be able to do this and be able to fund it and make it happen, that's a huge success. I think the other big success is that we have been able to cater to what is currently going on with the pandemic. So in the strategic plan, we always said, hey, we're going to have virtual assets and things like that. But we moved that very much forward as soon as the pandemic hit. We were already baking that into what we were doing. So we were able to pull that forward. Now we have these virtual tools that are very accessible to really anybody. And frankly, it's all these other kind of micro successes that we experience on a daily basis at the facility with all these students coming through. You can see these aha moments a lot of times with these young folks that have never even maybe touched a power tool.
Yeah.
They have no idea about how the materials work, and by virtue of the core fundamentals course that we're running right now, they get to touch upon a lot of various aspects of the industry, and you can see certain different trades, various students start to light up around some of those things. So it's all these successes. The biggest hurdle, like Alicia was touching on there, is really having the private industry see the value of this and be able to kind of invest in it in apprenticeship programs and in instructional programs and bringing all these folks together. That's part of what we do. I help oversee and facilitate a apprenticeship consortium here in Western Virginia, and we get everybody around the table. We get all the assets of the state program in the room. We get all the assets of instructional programming and educators, and then we get, most importantly, the private industry partners, so they can see the value of this and bring this together. That's really the next hurdle that we're trying to kind of resolve for, like you were speaking about, is to, or inquiring about, is to get all these players in the room and say, hey, here's how we can all work together to kind of solve for what everybody is screaming for. The industry is really screaming for these
When
workers.
you get all those players in the room, what kind of feedback are you getting for the skill set of the kids or the adults who are working with the Institute to go out into the field and learn this? What's some of the feedback?
I mean, everybody that we encounter, I mean, the first thing they say is, this is so needed. This has been needed for so long. So the folks that are starting to come through the Institute, like he said, that's part of our success, is seeing their smiles, seeing them light up when they're running a wire or working on some pipe and learning how to plumb.
But how about from the employers? The employers, the business people, are they equally as excited?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh yeah, here's very much so. So sorry to interrupt, Lisa, but yeah, I take these calls quite often, and really, here's what the call is. This is somewhat congruent amongst all the callers, is they say, when are you going to graduate people? When can we have some graduates come and join our company?
That's right.
Well, and more importantly, so the certificates are important, but we offer a bunch of certifications through NCCER and HBI. I don't know if those names mean anything to you.
So you could actually come out as a licensed electrician, right?
Well, so backing up a little bit, so NCCER and HBI, they're nationally recognized, but even folks in the construction industry really don't know what that means.
No,
So-
I'm with them.
So that's not a problem. So what we do is not only with the certificate, so an individual could walk into a prospective employer with a certificate, they might not know what that means, but what we do is right on the back of the certificate, and we produce it electronically as well, is we show the actual knowledge and skills competencies that individual has attained through our program. So that way that prospective employer or the private company can say, hey, this is what these individuals are capable of doing. They've been tested out both in the knowledge and the skills piece, and that way it meets precisely to what the employer might be looking for, versus somebody that hasn't gone through a program and can't demonstrate that they've have these competencies, you know.
To your point, though, as far as, for instance, being a licensed electrician, that's something that's licensed by the state. So they would go through the Build Smart Institute program, get the training, get the education, then they would go sit for their test to get their licensure in that specific example.
Do you help them through that process? You know, as part of that, you know, it's like, we've got you ready, now we're going to, you know, help them and kind of follow them through? Or do they leave the Institute and then what they choose to do after that is kind of up to them?
Could be both, really. So so DPOR, who regulates the contractors in the state of Virginia, they have various licensure for a variety of different trades, and it's not a whole lot. It's only about 7 or 8 particular trades, and you can get a contractor's license, and typically the contractor's license is something where you would own a company or oversee a company, and we can offer. We will at some point be offering how to study for that exam when you go in and things of that nature. But so we wouldn't produce a certificate for that. We would prepare them for the exam,
Okay.
and then they would get their license. And it's very similar in electrical, HVAC, plumbing, some of these other trades that we can. We're onboarding some of those programs right now, and DPOR has to approve those programs, and that way now we would be an approved DPOR facility, so we can train to that specific licensing, and then they could go and take and sit for that licensing test.
Is there one that's the biggest hole, a welder, an electrician, a brickmaker?
All of them.
All of them.
All
So they
of
are
them.
equal. Okay.
And one of the things we determined really early on with Build Smart was we don't want to just instruct from a book, teach from a book. We want all of our instructors who come on board to have that field knowledge, to have been there, to have done that, to have anecdotal stories of what's actually happening in the field. So as we move through and stack on the different courses, Build Smart is also, we're looking for those adjunct instructors that are in the field, that are current, that know what's happening, that are up to date on current codes. So we're working through that process too of reaching out to folks that are going to be instructors that have experience. They're not book learners, they're not book teachers. They've been there, they've done that. They can talk to
And
the
hands
folks.
on, roll up your sleeves
They-
and let's do it.
Yes, yes, ma'am, absolutely.
And you also have financial assistance available. How does that program work for the institute for families that might need that?
So we're working through several opportunities. There are obviously grants that are available. We are starting a Build You Scholarship Fund where folks will be able to contribute to support students. We're still working through that process. We're a brand new launch, but we are definitely working towards ways to be able to help support folks financially.
Yeah, and there's a variety of grants we're working on as well right now too, and we're still in infancy, as Alicia was talking about. So now that we have our legs under us, starting to get move through it each day, we're going to be able to access some of these grants. So.
Well, and I was thinking, what makes this so important? And yes, we've talked about the gaps in the industry and how that's needed in that, but I also think about that personal satisfaction of doing something that you wanted to do, you learn how to do it. How rewarding is that for someone who says, I just want to find my match for my career, no matter what it is, no matter where I end up. What do you find?
I'm going to tell you, this guy right here, you want to talk about somebody that's fulfilled and excited. There are some days, you come into work and, Rob, what's going on today? And I mean, he's just so excited. This happened and that happened, and these students, telling me all about their faces lighting
Right.
up. It is extremely satisfying.
Yeah.
No
Yeah,
doubt.
it really is. You can just see a lot of gratification. I appreciate you saying that. It is, for me, just as a little side note, this is a passion project for me. It doesn't feel like work, I just never expected to be really here in my career. I've been in the industry for 40 years, and it's just phenomenal. And it's the thing for me that I find is, and I find myself kind of echoing the mentor, Colonel Steve Zalomi, that taught me in the 70s, and channeling some of what he said back then. And it's really about respect and making it, that this is a respectable career like anything else, and just exposing the students to a variety of things that they're capable of or potentially capable of. And then you can start to see, as I'm telling the students certain things and instructing certain things myself, I say, hey, look, these are things that I was never told through the course of time. Now you have the advantage as you go into the field. You're going to be able to look at it through a different lens and be able to work more safely and more informed and things like that. So that you can see some of that start. The feedback is really where you start to see those successes and those folks lighting up. So the kids will start repeating things and saying, yeah, this is, and I'll even try to trip them up a little bit, and they'll correct me and things like that. So that's where you kind of start to see it.
Well, and there's pride in doing it well, right? I mean, we remember working with our families to do little projects around the house, and whether or not you were just having your eyes on what dropped to try to find it, or a tool gatherer, it was great to do. And when we've had projects done at our own houses, when you've got someone who's been really good and it's amazing. And those are the ones that people are always searching for. Before I let you go, any final thoughts, anything you'd like to share that we didn't get a chance to talk about?
I'd like to say
Rob?
one thing real quick is that one of the things that it springboards off what you just said, it's part of our core fundamentals of construction course, we have an employability piece, and that teaches the critical thinking skills, the soft skills, how to get a job, how to maintain a job, all these life skills that folks wouldn't particularly get. So we try to fulfill a bunch of different lanes and build that individual up in a more full way than just actual technical education.
Final word, Alicia, what are you thinking?
I just want to say this Build Smart Institute, Gary Fazell years ago said, I want to start a construction school. And everybody kind of said, really? But now it's come to fruition. We're super excited. We're blessed to have, our staff is wonderful. Rob's wonderful. Wesley is our lead instructor. We've got a great team that is ready and waiting for students to come. We are going to help the construction industry. That's our goal, and we're going to do it.
And you are on your way, because not only do you have the Institute, you've got this dual model, this blended model, so that they can do courses online, they can get in the field. You can start as early as 5th or 6th grade by getting in contact with the people at your school, or working with people in high schools through the Career and Technical Ed program, or even outside with adult ed. If you're thinking, gosh, I want a transitional career now, I'm interested, I've always loved working with my hands, I've always enjoyed doing this. The Build Smart Institute sounds like there's a home for everybody.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you really captured that well. That's great.
Well, thank you so much. My special thanks to Rob and Alicia for sharing the Build Smart Institute and the wonderful opportunities that are available to all of us in the area. For more information, we'll have things posted on our website. Thank you so much for watching. For What It Takes, I'm Rose Martin. I'll see you next time.